I want to talk about TikTok, but I also, the market's at new highs again, Mr. Secretary. And I made the point again, most of the stock markets, maybe not the Dow, but the S&P and the NASDAQ indicated higher today. With everything we've heard about and worried about in terms of global trade rebalancing and tariffs and, you know, the labor market and everything else, do you think does it deserve to be there? Is it because of the anticipation of some rate cuts, or is it something more positive like deregulation or something else?
Joe, I think it's a combination. You know, I've been in the market 35, 40 years. It's very difficult to tease out one factor. We all know that market climbs a wall of worry, but I think the market, the U.S. market, is seeing a lot of things it likes with President Trump's agenda. And first and foremost, it's back to his first term, non-inflationary growth. We are going to see substantial deregulation. I can tell you, everyone asks me, what's the biggest surprise for you now that you've gotten into the Treasury seat? And it was just this regulatory morass that we had surrounded American businesses with, and President Trump is determined to cut through that. In his first term, he said that there was going to one regulation could go in for every 3 that came out. It ended up being 1 went in for every 7. He set the target of 1 for every 10 now. I think it'll be substantially more. We're seeing, over at EPA, Lee Zeldin's doing a great job in terms of letting America get back to building things again. We had become a kind of country where we weren't able to build things in a robust fashion. It was delayed. We couldn't build things across state lines. So we want to be an AI superpower. We want to be energy dominant, and all that's got to come from deregulation. And I think the market likes that. I think the markets are also looking through and seeing that the president's tariffs, contrary to what everyone said in April, we're now getting research reports from major Wall Street banks. Barclays had a very good report about 10 days ago that said that the U.S. bond market is performing very well because of the revenue from tariffs. Tariffs were supposed to destroy the U.S. bond market, and instead we're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars this year to pay down the debt.
How do you think that plays out, Mr. Secretary? Have you had conversations about what to do if the Supreme Court upholds some of those decisions about the tariffs? Are there other avenues that are you involved in trying to figure out what the next step would be?
Joe, I'm confident that the Supreme Court will rule in favor of the administration. I think the law is on our side. I think historically that the Supreme Court is very reluctant to overrule a president's signature policy, and President Trump's 2 signature policies. The first is the border, where he has closed the border. They said it couldn't be done, and the Supreme Court has gone along with all the immigration rulings, despite what the lower courts have done. And I think we're seeing here the lower courts are trying to stop this, and I'm confident we'll see it in the Supreme Court. And there are lots of other authorities we can use, but I am confident that we will prevail with the IEEPA lawsuit.
Mr. Secretary, yesterday you said that Chinese negotiators in the talks that you were having with them came up with a very aggressive ask. There was reporting around it that suggested that was related to technology issues and broader trade issues, and tying those two together. You said at the time that the U.S. was not willing to sacrifice national security for the sake of reaching a deal. And then later we heard that there is a framework. You came out and said there's a framework for a deal for TikTok. Can you explain what the aggressive ask was and how you kind of worked through that to get to the framework for TikTok, and then what the framework for TikTok is?
Well, Becky, under President Trump's leadership, the United States of America is back. If you recall, when Secretary Blinken, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with the Chinese for the first time in Alaska, they were berated and scolded for about 2 hours and had to sit and take it. The talks with our Chinese counterparts, because of the good relationship between President Trump, Party Chair Xi, are done with great respect and very fulsome. The Chinese came in, as they typically do, with a long list of asks dating back all the way to President Trump's administration, a lot of grievances with what the Biden administration had done. And I will tell you what turned the tide was a call that Ambassador Greer and I had with President Trump the night after the first day of negotiations, and President Trump made it clear that he would have been willing to let TikTok go dark, that we were not going to give up national security in favor of the deal. So we were able to reach a series of agreements, mostly for things we will not be doing in the future that have no effect on our national security. And I anticipate we have a framework for a deal, and I anticipate on Friday, when President Trump has a phone call with Party Chair Xi, that the two of them will agree on a final deal.
There are so many questions surrounding TikTok, and even this last week, the Utah governor, in the wake of the assassination, talked a lot about how there are Russian and Chinese bots that are set loose on social media. He didn't name TikTok in particular, but just said that these are ways of other countries trying to foment hate here in this country. And do you feel like there's an agreement here that will allow you to make sure that those foreign countries, other agents, are not able to do that when it comes to TikTok?
So, Becky, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, this terrible murder, my friend Charlie Kirk, that's a combination of the hate and the terrible language that we've seen from the left, and this fomenting of hatred, violence, normalizing violence. But that's across many social media platforms. If we want to isolate TikTok, a couple of things. First of all, there are two agreements that had to be done. One are the commercial terms of the agreement between the current owner of TikTok, ByteDance, and the new investors. That had, in essence, been done since March or April. A few details left to be ironed out. After Liberation Day, the Chinese put that on hold. President Trump, Party Chair Xi, wanted to re-engage on the subject, and the subject of our talks was the Chinese government okaying the deal. So I think that's where we are now, and I can tell you that this deal wouldn't be done without proper safeguards for U.S. national security and the interest of all our citizens, especially our children.